Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Forbes Riley, and I'm here with my co-host, Kevin Harrington, who you will absolutely recognize as one of the original sharks from Shark Tank.
And Forbes, thank you. We've known you for many years on TV as a celebrity fitness host as well as a television show host. And it's good for you to be here today.
Thank
and
you.
Working with you is a lot of fun. But we've got CJ Coolidge over here. And CJ, welcome to our conversation, because you are the world's leading authority, one of the world's leading authorities on employee engagement, right? So what's the big deal about employee engagement?
It is great to be back here, guys.
Thank
I can
you.
tell you what, the thing about employee engagement, interestingly enough, is it affects everybody's life every single day. Like, I travel a lot, you guys do too, right?
Yeah, all the time.
I was at the airport just the other day coming here, and when I get to the airport, I'm like in a hurry, I'm behind, I'm hungry. I come to the food court, which is the only place to eat in an airport. You see the lines,
Right.
There's like 5 people working. You got one person at the counter, and the others are like wiping the counters or wandering around or having conversations, and you
Right.
wait, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait. And you finally get there, and somebody with dead eyes and disinterest, no interest in me, gives me my food. I run to the gate, get to the gate, and realize, this isn't what I ordered.
Right.
What do I
gosh.
do? I don't do anything. I just,
Wait, and then the people who work in the airlines, they're also not engaged with you either.
isn't it funny?
Oh, yes.
I mean, you call your insurance company, you get the problem. You call the phone company, you call the cell, you call these companies looking for service, and you discover that people who are doing things they don't care about, for people they don't care about. In fact, for a lot of them, your call is an interruption. Can you imagine that?
this
Well,
has
you're
to
telling
be
me,
go
I
ahead.
was going to say, you can change this,
Yeah.
because this seems like a huge issue.
Well, it's got to be costing corporations a lot of money, because they're not moving the customers through. They're probably upsetting customers who go to another company, et cetera, right?
It is an amazing problem. The problem really, though, is that the world has accepted it. They've said this is the status quo, this is how things work,
Yeah.
and we have to work with it. In fact, the Gallup people have done surveys, oh gosh, for the last 3 decades. And they've discovered that when you look over 1 million employees, they don't consider, let's say only 28% of them consider themselves engaged. And when I say engaged, I don't mean happy. I don't mean they like their job. I mean, these are people that are fully committed to do whatever it takes to move the needle to make the business objectives of the company happen.
That's only 28%.
28%.
So the rest of
That's
them
correct.
are. But you think it's also because management doesn't view employees in a positive way?
Oh, we'll get there. In fact, that's the truth. But the reality is that they were trained to develop their businesses on premises that were created in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, and are now taught in business schools, and people still follow them. And these are things that came out of the Industrial Revolution, simply saying people are tools. They're expenses. They need to be controlled. And if you control the expense, that means there's no money to be spent on them. You try to minimize all that, and out of that, you have today's employee who is incredibly disengaged.
Okay,
By the
so-
way, they always were.
You're telling me, because if you have a solution, you could revolutionize everybody, because this really feels like an epidemic. We talk about customer service being terrible everywhere.
This is true.
So you have a solution, yes?
I have a solution. I came about this, though, when I went to work for my dad. He was in the convention business. He'd been working for 50 years in the convention business before he died. He was a, what do you call it, an MBA from Georgetown. He was the
Right.
smartest guy at the company. He knew how to control things. That was his model. He makes the decisions. He tells people what to do. He creates the policies, the procedures, and we follow them. And if everybody does what they're supposed to do,
Right.
that means what he told them to do, then we make money.
Right.
That's his model.
Right.
Okay.
But he was like most of my clients, trying to control stuff, getting their people to do what he thinks they're supposed to do, but he worked way too hard.
Wow.
He didn't spend enough time with the people he loved doing things he loved. He couldn't grow as fast as he wanted to, and he didn't make the money he thought he should. And that's real characteristic, because he didn't realize that the people that were working there could have done way more than they had he understood an idea that they actually be engaged.
So he looked at the employee, being a finance guy, as an expense. How should they look at the employee?
well, isn't that what everybody does?
Okay,
They
give us.
probably do. How should they? You-
Okay, so
give us
employees,
By the way, I want every employer to perk up right now.
They should.
Well, because we deal with those people every day, and life is getting a little frustrating. So everybody come a little closer to your screen. Go ahead.
so an employee
Yes?
is a person. Isn't that weird? An employee is not a tool. An employee is not a machine, which you can turn on at 8 o'clock in the morning and then have it run effectively until 5 o'clock. These are people with hopes and dreams and aspirations and wishes, and mothers and fathers and children and fears. And they bring those things into their work world in such a way that if you knew how to connect in those ways, you could create some engagement which would have them do more than they would ever do, given static models and
They're
things to
not
just do.
an expense. They are an asset, is what you're saying.
That is the truth.
Yeah.
But if you look at accounting models, what do you have to do? Whenever you spend money on an employee, what is it?
You expense it.
It's called expense.
Right.
So this dichotomy exists. The reality is that an employee is an asset, could be an asset and could be developed as one, but the accounting and finance models that we deal with say they're expenses.
Okay, so I would imagine if you come into a company and you effectively change this model for people, that their bottom line probably goes up. Is that true?
Like instantaneously. It can't help it. Can you imagine if you had 10 employees in a company and all of them said, you know what, I'm so committed to what we do here and I love what we do here and I want to make sure that our objectives get, and I'm going to focus on making sure we make an extra $10 today.
You have a magic potion in here? What is it that you have?
Oh, you're so...
Go ahead.
Magic potions indeed.
Well, I do see 4 new rules for increasing profits and profitability. Is that part of what you teach?
That is absolutely part of what I teach. Those rules were established, like I said, in the Industrial Revolution and perfected through the late 19th,
and they're
the
oppressive.
20th century. And they're inflexible, they're oppressive, yeah.
CJ, I think I know this must work because somebody like Steve Forbes, who is on the cover of your book.
From Forbes magazine?
From Forbes magazine.
No relation to me.
Here is a very successful financial person
Yes.
who is saying that what you do works, right?
Yes.
So that's pretty amazing to have Steve Forbes saying that about you. So we know it works. You've got 4 steps, and you're now speaking all around the country, maybe worldwide, I don't know. To get this message out, correct?
I believe it's probably the most, well, you said it, it's the most important message for employers anywhere. It's the most important message for customers of companies. It's the most important message for the economy, simply because it's not being dealt with.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you how you came to this. You worked for a company at some point?
Yeah,
And tell me that part of your story.
Okay, so while I'm working for my dad and I'm realizing that the only thing he knows how to do to make business work is to just work harder, I got 3 little kids at home and I got a wife and I'm already working as hard as I can work, and I luckily got out of there. I started to work for a company that had a people-centric mission, which is really cool, and they had a different kind of people strategy. This was a Fortune 1000 company back in the day. They saw me as an individual. They saw my unique abilities, my aspirations, the things I hoped that I could do when I worked there, and I wanted to fulfill their mission. I went to work there, and I was so engaged that I actually produced $1 billion in revenue for that company.
I'm sorry, was that with a B?
With a B. It was $1 billion. I did.
Yes. So now you've helped companies now get their employees more engaged. Do you have some examples of that?
Oh yeah, but before I tell you an example, I want to tell you what's really odd.
What?
My accounts were so profitable for so long that that company actually named their profitability award the CJ Coolidge Award.
It's a good name.
And the hiccup on that is I did it working less than 30 hours a week and less than 9 months a year. I was virtually a part-time employee. And the reason that's so important is that if there is a level of engagement that gets it possible, I mean, who wouldn't want somebody like that in their company? If there's a level of engagement that makes that possible to pursue it, could alter the course, destiny, the company could just change it. That's why this is so important.
As you got engaged, your performance increased, which is ultimately the message that you're delivering to everybody that potentially is out there listening to yourself. Aaron.
Sorry to interrupt you. I should not have. Listen to this. Engagement is, I am fully committed to do whatever it takes to move the needle to get the results our company's looking for. Can you imagine if the entire group of employees was so focused on things like the business owner is himself? Can you imagine that?
I'm getting excited just listening to you. Hey, do me a favor. I know that I'm getting excited. People out there are also. Would you actually look directly at them and tell them, especially speaking, how they can get to you and what is it you provide?
Okay, if you're a meeting planner or an event coordinator, you want unique programs that are really high value for your people, but you also want ones that are seamless. I've spoken over 2,500 times to groups of all kinds in all kinds of venues. So my commitment right here is if you work with me, I will be the easiest speaker you ever worked with. And when it comes to high value information, just listen to what Forbes said. If you can present your listeners, your audience, programs that make it easy for them to grow faster, run better, make more money, they will love you for it. That's incredible. And when people come out of my program, you know what they're going to feel? They're going to be on fire. They're going to be really excited about the things they do. They're going to be excited they work for you. They're going to know that you believe in them. And you know what? Imagine when the audience members come to you and they say, wow, I'm so grateful that you brought CJ in programs that could help me become more engaged, make more money, change my life. I mean, the kinds of things that happen when you do this are phenomenal.
CJ's on fire.
I'll tell you what,
Right.
we are there with you, brother. I got to tell you, I'm so excited because as a consumer, every time I pick up the phone and talk to a customer service, it's just drone and there. And I've met those waitresses, I've been on those airplane flights. It's like, help, please help. And the fact that you're saying something that you can actually work less, make more, and be more productive is so mind-blowing to me right now. I love
Isn't that
it.
exciting?
Yeah, it is.
It
You're
is.
going to tell us about some company that's got more engagement.
Let me tell you, you ask the question, do companies that engage make more money? Does it always work? Okay, I'll give you a couple examples. I got a company that is in the software business, right? They're technology people. Technology people are what? They're like code writers. They're people you expect to be sitting at their desk just processing, right?
Right.
So this company had 24% turnover. It was industry acceptable. They were happy with it. They thought their profitability was fine too. And I'm going, guys, 24% turnover, that may be industry acceptable, but it's really expensive. In fact, what do you think the managers are doing in that company all the time? They're hiring people, they're recruiting people, they're training people. That's just, their time is all messed up in cycling people through.
Right.
So we go into that company and we start to deal with these individuals and start asking them questions that are related to people-driven business, like, do you have a purpose for being here? Does the company have a purpose that interests you? Do you get to use your unique talents and abilities? I mean, those kinds of things. And we discovered that they were hiring incorrectly. They had people, they just didn't understand it. What happened really quickly is they reduced their turnover in 6 months to half, like 12%. Wow. And they immediately, because these employees saw efficiencies, which is really where your money's wasted, they took 8% off their labor cost just like that.
Yeah.
Because the people looked at what had to be done and realized they had the power to do something, and they did.
They saved a lot of money. They also then, the managers got a lot more time to be able to do the things to build the business instead of hiring and firing and training, right? So
that's correct.
It's a win-win all the way around.
It's amazing. The companies set these things up. They call them solid structures. I call them solid structures. We're going to tell you in advance how the company's going to look, what it's going to do. Here's how we're going to structure things. When the world is changing so rapidly that it's really possible that what you choose to do in a structure today could tomorrow move into obsolescence, right? It's amazing how many people have things to do that are just part of what they've always done, and they continue to do them. In fact, Peter Drucker says that over 40% of the activities that companies do don't make any contribution to the bottom line. They make no contribution to they don't create value. But we do them because our old model says we have to determine in advance what to do.
CJ, how do people find out more about you and what you're up to?
Wow, man, I have put together some tips and some resources and strategies, and I put them on a website. I put them all together so they can just go get them, and they're available for free.
And that information is right down below.
Right down below.
Good.
And so you've got books, you do speaking, you get all around the place, around the country. You having fun doing this?
I'm having a blast. I'm tired of airports and tired of food courts. But
just be passing out your book.
if you can change the world, which see the irony of this oddball thing is that the people from Gallup say that the cost of employee disengagement is moving past $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion. And when you look at the entire economy of the United States and you go, wait, if you could add $1 trillion to our economy, that'd be like adding 2/3 to the energy business right now. Yeah. And if you did that, what would that do?
Well, I'm going to tell you that I don't think that many employers realize that there is a solution to this problem. They know they've got something wrong, there's some level of disengagement, but up until meeting you, I didn't realize it was fixable. So I'm hoping that you get hired more and more to speak, because I do think, like I said, it affects the employers, but as a customer, we're a customer of everything. I would like them to be more engaged, more interested, get what I need to do going, so that when I get to the food court, I get my meal, I'm happy.
There you go.
And it translates to all of us, doesn't it?
That's
right.
right.
One last thought. The employer's happy when this is all over,
right,
but so is the employee, correct?
Oh, well, that's true too.
Right?
That's exactly
he's
right.
more engaged, she or he, they get into it and they understand the employer's mission. And so, like I said, it's a win-win all the way around.
What we're doing now, it kills customers. We hate it. We're mad. It's ruining businesses. It's destroying the lives of the people that work there. Mm-hmm. And as I've been saying, I think the whole thing's just wreaking havoc on the economy.
Do you have a last example of anybody that's seen some transformation?
They all work in the same sort of way. Once they start focusing on this and they get people that are wanting to do things that make a difference in their world, it changes their world. So I had a lady her name is Helen, and she had a consulting company. These were primarily writers. She used to do translating for things and built manuals for the oil companies. And she said, writers are contractors. They're just here, they're just translating, they're just filling out my material. So she tells me, I don't have any people problems. Super. Somebody wants to buy her company and they make an offer. And she says, maybe it's not as much as I want, but it's an offer and I'll take it. Funny thing is, they did due diligence. And they went in and asked questions of the workforce to discover that they weren't aligned. They weren't committed to being there. They didn't love their work. They were just, and they said, so they pulled the plug. They didn't do it. So she calls me back. And I go in and said, let's start looking at how to make these contractors, not contractors, but these employees really excited with the company. And less than 18 months later, she was able to sell the company for twice the offer that she'd been given the previous time.
It's an amazing story.
Amazing how fast you can grow.
I'm going to call you America's
engaged
customer
employees.
service hero, Mr. CJ Coolidge. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
You're
for having me
awesome.
back again.
You did amazing. Thank you.
Kevin, thank you.